G'day guys and welcome back to the Boundary Riders Podcast. Now we're up to episode 13, just completed round 10, and a lot of upsets happened throughout this weekend. We saw Geelong get beaten down in Geelong by the Giants. We saw
the Saints choke.
the Saints choke against Hawthorn. Even the Swans beating the Blues was, I think, a bit of an upset for a lot of people. But we missed you last week, so how did you think the round went?
Yeah, I think I think it was a unpredictable week, really. But it was good to see the Sir Doug Nicholls round. The entire rounds were both pretty powerful, in my opinion.
Both entertaining,
yeah. And a lot of Indigenous players
played up in those rounds.
They did. And
we saw a goal of the year contender from Isaac Rankin. Kasai Pickett as well kicked the goal the week before that and kicked one well this week against Fremantle.
Yeah.
So, we always stand up in those rounds, those in the Indigenous players. But one thing that happened was the Gold Coast beat Western Bulldogs, and I know you didn't see this game. I watched this game and it was live on my stream. This was one of the worst umpiring performances I've seen in a long time. Yeah. This was a one-sided... There was 12 free kicks, I think, given to Western Bulldogs in this game before the Gold Coast got one. And one of the big things that was out of this game as well was a flop or a dive that was taken by a notorious diver in Cody Waitman.
Mm.
So this happened throughout the whole weekend. It wasn't just him. We saw Taylor Walker take one. We saw Max King take one. I think there are a few others as well. But what I wanted to... I know it's been talked about this week, but I wanted to ask you, what do you think should happen if a player is flopping? Because basically, at this stage, you can get a fine for it, but in-game, it doesn't really make a difference. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think a fine's just pointless. All that does is... it's great for the AFL because they get more money, but it does nothing for the game. In my opinion, a $5,000 or $1,000 fine that they receive for it, that's their money for the week. They won't care. The players won't care. The only players that would care would be probably the rookie players that would care a bit. But besides from that, it's just chunk change for them. So I think what you should be doing is giving away a free kick for it, like they do in soccer, but simulation.
They're even talking about it in the NBA now that players are starting to flop a lot. So the NBA are thinking of starting in the summer league, I believe, a foul is given. So in the NBA, it's a little bit different because obviously if you get a foul, it's one of your 5 or 6 or whatever it is now. So it is a big penalty. But in the AFL, I believe it should be a automatic. If they have a free kick, it should be an automatic reversal, like we saw with Taylor Walker. He got hit in the chest and threw himself onto the ground trying to get a 50-metre penalty. He didn't get it, though. It was a good decision.
Oh, that one, I did see that. Yeah, sorry, I did see that. I did see some of them, yeah.
That should have been an automatic reversal. And then the player who hit him, then they took a dive after it.
Yeah.
I think it was...
Gardner.
Yeah. He took a dive. So... Oh no, was it Harris Andrews or was it Gardner?
No, it was Gardner.
Yeah.
But,
so it should have just been a reverse and then back to a reverse. Yeah. And then... Cody Waitman's one. The umpire was standing right in the vicinity of it, and he went in. So basically, his opponent was standing there, and then Waitman lowered himself as he was about to lead and threw his shoulder out so he would get hit.
By Ben Long. He had his arm out, and he's just like, I'm going to go for the high tackle.
And at this stage, this game could have been decided by this decision. Luckily, it didn't, and the Gold Coast won. And if you guys saw the clip of the call from Bailey Humphrey's goal.
Yeah. I did see.
That was a great finish.
I did see the end of the game of that, and I was one of the lucky people that tipped the Gold Coast because, I know. I think you explained it, didn't you? Because I did explain it to you before, because I wasn't here last week.
I explained it in the stream as well about how you called it because the condition changes of the Gold Coast going from the Bulldogs going from Ballarat cold, windy to a very humid, hot, wet. It was 27 degrees throughout that game. So I did think it showed at stages, but I think the Gold Coast were very good in that game. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But with the flopping, last thing before we move on to a little bit more, but I think, like you said, I think a free kick should be automatically awarded to the player, against the player who flops, or a reversal of a decision, or vice versa. Yeah. I hate it when, and I'm not saying it's just those 3 players that are culprits. A lot of players do it all the time, and it shouldn't matter what player it is. It should be a decision. Yeah. Like I know a couple of Swans players, who have done it in the past, and when I see a Swans player do it, I go, oh, that's fucking shit. Don't do that. Yeah. I hate when any player of any team does it because it's just shit for the game. You don't want to see a player throw themselves on the ground, You don't want to be known as a player who's
No.
in his career as a flopper.
No.
No, it's not a good name to be called. You want to be known as a great player. You don't want to be known as a flopper. And I think there are a few players now who are starting to bring themselves up to be known as a flopper. And no one wants to be... If you want to be known as that in your career, I don't think so.
Yeah. But there's also one more thing that I want to say about this flopping. Gold Coast are one of the most under pressure teams this season. Stuart Dew is one of the most under pressure coaches this season. And that nearly cost them that game. And it probably wouldn't have cost him his job, obviously. But...
Well, I mean, it could have been...
When you look at the end of the... Like, you look 2 years down the track, maybe next year sort of thing. And you look at... People won't remember this moment of Cody Waitman getting that free kick. They'll look at the win-loss record.
Yeah.
And that's what the board members at the Gold Coast would look at.
Yeah, they wouldn't be remembering, we lost that game because of this.
Yeah,
saying, we lost that game.
Yeah, you lost that game. So, it just didn't look good. And, yeah, I think there needs to be a different change than, a fine. Because players won't care. Players don't care.
Yeah.
They don't.
The amount of money they get paid, $5,000, isn't gonna hurt them too much.
No.
So, maybe it should even be games suspended. But I still think it should be a penalty inside the game. It shouldn't be a penalty after the game.
Yeah. But the standard of umpiring throughout the whole week, I thought was pretty bad in the holding the ball decisions, in my opinion. But
there are a couple of shockers.
There was a couple of games that I think it was the Geelong. No, I think it's the Fremantle game. Sorry, that one player drops the ball instantly, like gets tackled instantly. He gets tackled 3 seconds later, drops the ball, wasn't paid. Literally the next contest, the exact same thing, and it was paid against the other team. I thought it's the same thing, but 2 different standards, 2 different rulings.
2 different rulings because of the 2. Yeah. I don't even know.
Different interpretations.
Yeah, I hate that. There shouldn't be a different interpretation based on the different umpire. Because I get that they're like 2 different people, but they should all be following the same rule. There shouldn't be a umpire's decision based on what their feeling is. Yeah. It should be if they've dropped the ball, if the decision is there to be paid, you pay it.
Exactly. So,
but anyway, nonetheless, last week you weren't here, and something really big happened. I know we covered this last week, but Damien Hardwick obviously lost his job at Richmond. Yeah. Well, he left his job at Richmond, and last week, a lot of talk was about who's he going to coach next, and one big candidate is Port Adelaide. Yeah. Obviously, you being a Port supporter, I wanted to ask you if, at the moment, Port Adelaide are playing really good footy. They've won 8 in a row. They're probably up there as a contender at the moment because Melbourne have lost their last 2 games. Really, the only one who's competing at the moment is Collingwood. So Port Adelaide are in as good a form as Collingwood at the moment. If you had a decision right now, if you had to pick Damien Hardwick to coach Port Adelaide next season or Ken Hinckley, who would you choose?
I know a lot of people that know me would disagree with what I just said, but I'd say Kenny.
You'd say Ken
Hinckley?
Yeah.
I just
Before the start of the year?
Yeah, before the start of the year, I'd say Dimmer straight away. And I'd say that probably 3 weeks in after the showdown. But I don't... Yeah, I just don't think... I think there's a lot behind the scenes of Dimmer Hardwick since the 2021 season after they lost... after they won their last premiership.
2020.
Yeah, 2020. There's been a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that's happened to him, to Hardwick, and I don't think that some of that stuff has come out yet. So I think there's a lot of other things behind the scenes for him, but...
I think one thing as well is... The one thing that Ken Hinckley's always had on his side is that he's been loved by the Port Adelaide players.
The players have absolutely loved him.
And we've seen this year as well that now he's finally given the faith to younger guys. We've seen Zach Butters, who has been compared to Gary Ablett Jr. in the past few weeks, and he's played brilliantly. We saw last week as well. He probably played one of the best games of anyone this season as a solo effort. We may have actually been beaten out by a certain player this week, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but. We also see Connor Rozee go through there. We don't see Ollie Wines as much going in there being the lone guy. We're not seeing Travis Boak go through there as much anymore. And obviously the players like Robbie Gray and stuff are obviously retired now. So Port Adelaide have had to go to their youth. And I mean, even Xavier Dersmer in the first few rounds of the season playing on the wing, he was playing some very good footy before he got injured. So, and also I think one big thing for Port Adelaide that they've done that Ken Hinckley's done is he's picked players who can play a role. Yeah. Like, they've lost big players, like, basically they're 2 key forwards in Todd Marshall and Charlie Dixon. They've found Ollie Lord, who no one would have expected to come in this season and play a role, but he has. And, Jed McEntee as well is playing really good as a small forward when he's locking out players like Orazio Fantasia, who would have a better resume, but they're not playing their role as well as they are.
And injury, but yeah.
Yeah, but, he's not in the team. He was dropped before he got injured. So, I think that Ken Hinckley... If Port Adelaide were to keep on going, though, they can't just drop off. We've seen what they've done. If Ken Hinckley misses finals from here, or even... I think Port should be making top 4 from here. They've got a pretty good run, and, they've got games at Adelaide Oval where they shouldn't be losing. We've seen the Crows haven't been pretty hard to beat there this year, and Port Adelaide have been hard to beat as well. So, Port have got to continue to win their games. But if they can hold to the form that they have, make finals, possibly push deep into finals... Ken Hinckley should keep his job. Yeah. But if he drops off and there is a job there for Damien Hardwick, there's a chance that he gets that job.
Yeah, it's pretty much that Port make finals. I think Port have to at least make the semis. I think for Kenny to keep his job, but it'll be interesting. But I think he said during the press conference after the game, he's like, yeah, you could win 10. Well, you can win 5, 8 at the moment, 10, 15 in a row. But it doesn't matter if they don't make finals.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be interesting.
He's going to have to do some good stuff throughout the rest of the year. But I think, like you, if this was 3 weeks... If this was a month ago, Damien Hardwick... a month and a half ago, and Damien Hardwick left his job at Richmond, I'd be saying Port Adelaide should be on the phone immediately. But now, he's now proven... I think Ken Hinckley's always been known as a pretty good coach, but he's just had those problems throughout late in the finals, and obviously the big drop-off last year was not good for Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
But I think now, if he can hold this spot, he's obviously got Jason Horne-Francis as well. He picked up well in the trade period. His recruits have been playing well in the past, this year.
Not all of them, but yes,
well, this year they're playing pretty... Who?
I will get to it, I think. I think Junior Ellie's been pretty down on he's got, but...
Yeah, but he's been one. And if he comes... He's probably one.
I think Aliir, from last season to this year, he's got back to the season they had in 2021 when he was nearly...
he was All-Australian.
Yeah, he was All-Australian, so... Yeah, I think...
No, but this year, the recruits that they've got over the past few years, the majority of them are playing well. Jeremy Finlayson, Jason Horne-Francis, a couple of others. Yeah, and even Ryan Burton, to an extent, is playing a different role. He's playing pretty well up forward.
Yeah.
But anyway, now we'll get into the votes for the week. So this week, a couple of major upsets. Obviously, we'll go through them throughout the round. But we started off with a game, Sydney versus Carlton. This started off round 11. This was a huge game for Carlton and both teams. But I think especially for Carlton because they had their 2 key forwards there. They had a chance against a team who has a diminished backline. But one person who really stood out and probably won the game for Sydney was Nick Blakey.
Yeah,
he was massive in this game.
I didn't watch all of this game, but I watched the last quarter, and my God, was that the only quarter you had to watch in that game to see who was best on ground.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that Chad Warner actually won the medal for this game.
Yeah, I think that they must have taken the vote before 3/4 time because it was seriously Nick Blakey who was the best on ground.
Yeah, he was insane, and he got my 3 votes in this one. Chad Warner did get the 2. He played brilliantly. And also Jake Lloyd, I gave the 1 vote. He played really well. And he's having a pretty good year, Jake Lloyd, as well. But Nick Blakey, I know Kane Corn said that he deserved 900 a year. I don't know about that. But now that I think a big inclusion for Sydney was Lewis Melican because that it meant that Nick Blakey didn't have to play one-on-one with a Charlie Curnow or a...
I think Aaron Francis also going back. I think
he played very well in this game.
I think they found... I don't know why they tried him forward, but he is a backman, Francis, and he did show also in that last quarter that it was needed with some of the... I think he had 3 intercept marks as well as Blakey. He had 6.
But Nick Blakey was insane in this game, and he is starting now, considering the start of his career. He just couldn't... He was always recruited as a half forward to a midfielder, but because he's such a lethal left footer and he's just always on the run, he's a defender, and he's a very good one in that, so... He played really well. Sydney played incredibly well in this game, I think. But Carlton just kicked themselves out of it. They kicked 6 goal 15. Harry Mackay. I know people have been mentioning, and maybe I'll even talk about this, Harry Mackay potentially going to Sydney at the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't know.
His deal, that he's got a 7-year deal at Carlton, doesn't start until next year. doesn't.
Yeah, so get rid of him. Why not?
It's Sydney shouldn't. And I don't know if a lot of people think this as Swans fans, but I don't think Sydney need to go for a marquee key forward like they have with. Obviously, they've listed the Lance Franklin, Tony Lockett, Barry Hall, Warwick Capper, even going back that far. But I don't think Sydney need to go for a big key forward next year if Buddy Franklin... Well, I think Buddy Franklin does retire. But I don't think that Sydney need to do that. I think that they should do what they did similar in 2012, where they got all these recruits who, I'm not saying they should go for, players who can't get a game at their club, but pick players who we need. Like, for example, Sydney need a ruckman, Sydney need a key defender, and I think an extra midfielder.
Yeah.
That's my... I think that's what Sydney need. Paddy McCartan they just came out and recently said that Paddy McCartan will not play for the rest of the year, which is obviously sad to see. But I don't think he's going to come back ever. That's unfortunate to think about, but I don't see him coming back to the game at all because it's just too dangerous for a club and too dangerous on his body himself. So I really don't see him coming back. And I think Sydney need to realise now that they need to go for a key defender. We've got Tom McCartan, he's also got some concussion issues as well. He's not going to be back this week. I don't think he'll be back very quick after the bye either. It looks like Dane Rampy will be back after the bye. Sorry, that's this week. Obviously, Sydney got the bye this week. Don't worry about me. But, yeah, I think that Sydney need to look for a key defender. I think they need to look for a ruckman. And I know one thing that no one's mentioned yet. Obviously, Sean Darcy's going to be out this week for Fremantle. And Luke Jackson played brilliantly against Melbourne last week when he went solo. Sydney should be calling up the phone to Fremantle, say, hey, we'll give you a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
We will take Sean Darcy off your hands.
Yeah.
If I'm Sydney right now, I am calling up Fremantle and saying, Sean, come to the Sydney Swans, man. We will take you with open arms. That's what they need to do because Sean Darcy is a ruckman. Luke Jackson is a ruckman. They can't have two guys on their list that are A-grade ruckman on their list because neither of them are forwards.
Yeah, and... I know the speculation was Tom De Koning to Sydney, but I think it's shown recently that the big bustling ruckman can work. Yeah, especially with Darcy, who is.
I think also with younger midfielders.
Yeah, and I think he's shown that he can do it by himself, obviously, and that when he does do it with two players, it diminishes his role, in my opinion. So I think going up to Sydney, Tom Hickey's probably near the end of his career. He's got a lot of injuries at the moment. Yeah. So
Peter Adams I don't think he's taken the spot.
I don't think
he's
so.
Still a bit injured.
And like you've always said, that he's a forward ruck. He's not a ruck forward. Yeah. Or a ruckman. Yeah.
And Sydney have had problems in the past with having ruck forwards have to play full ruck because... back a couple of years ago, it was Callum Sinclair. Yeah. Because he did perform okay at times for Sydney, but there were times when it was like, we need a ruckman, and that's why the previous 2 years before this one, Tom Hickey was so important for the Swans, because he was a ruckman. So, no, but I think it is coming to the end for Tom Hickey. Sorry we went off a little bit of a tangent there, but yeah, I think Sydney don't need to focus on getting a forward, especially Harry Mackay, because they'd have to pay out his whole salary, well not whole, but I'm sure they'd have to work out having to pay a huge amount of his contract off for Carlton. And two, yes, he is a former Coleman medalist, but we've seen now his bad form is terrible.
And also, a Coleman medalist kicking less than 60 goals, it could be a whole other conversation, but it's not a lot. Yeah. For a Coleman medalist, less than 60 goals is not great. Yeah. And he just looks so out of confidence. 13 minutes to go on that game, he had an easy chest mark and it just pops out.
That was shocking.
That was just the pinnacle of the bad form that he is in. Yeah.
But next up we get to probably the biggest upset of the round, I believe, is St Kilda versus Hawthorn. And the reason why I say this is probably the biggest upset of the round was because Hawthorn were down in this game by about 20-odd points, 25 points with... in the last quarter.
15 minutes left.
15 minutes left against a team that's coached by Ross Lyon, and they were able to just find easy goals late in this game. Yeah. Hawthorn were big, led by probably one of the biggest games of the season. Zach Butters, we saw last week, was brilliant. This week, obviously a different sort of role, but James Sicily was massive. Yeah. He had 40-plus touches, 20-plus, I think, marks as well. Had a bunch of intercept possessions.
It was incredible. It was incredible.
And for a team that I thought probably 3 weeks into the season we're going to finish bottom by a lot, look like they've actually found a little bit of form. They've won their last 2 games in a row. I don't think it's going to go much further than that. They got Port Adelaide this week, and James Sicily is suspended.
And he is suspended, which was... It was a kind of a stupid act what he did, but it was not... it was something that you'd see coming from James Sicily, that he would get suspended again. It was never going to be the good kid again. Good kid.
But he was massive in this game. Probably one of the best games I've seen from a player this season. I probably would give Zach Butters, but again, they're both playing a very different game, so it's hard to kind of separate them. Yeah. But obviously in this game, 3 votes went to James Sicily, 2 votes went to John Newcombe. He was big in the last quarter, and he's been pretty good this season in the midfield, when they've been performing quite well in there. And the 1 vote I gave to Dylan Moore. Hawthorn were massive in this game. It's embarrassing for St Kilda to lose 1 to a team like Hawthorn. I know that may be a little bit harsh to say, but they shouldn't be losing a game against Hawthorn if they want to be pushing finals. And it's just embarrassing that they had such a good lead and they just sat still and let Hawthorn get back into it.
Well, don't you think it's really funny that Max King comes back from injury? In the last 2 weeks, he's kicked 4 goals in both games. And it seems like he come back, everyone else is like, it's right, Max King, you do it.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's up to him now.
It's almost like Sydney of a couple of years ago when they were just buddy conscious. Yeah. It's almost like they're Max King conscious. Yeah, it is. And when, for example, Buddy was out, Sydney looked a lot more dangerous up forward. And I'm not saying that St Kilda need to drop Max King by any means, because he is a very good forward, but he is obviously being very focused on. Yeah. And maybe because Tim Membry's also out at the moment, so maybe Caminiti isn't taking that, big role. And I think both of them are key forwards. Like Tim Membry's a little bit different. He was able to go up the ground. Both of them, Caminiti and King, have to play deep forward. So maybe that's just a thing that St Kilda are going to have to work out on. But last year they started off really well, fell away really quickly. It looks like they could be going in that same trend again. If St Kilda do that again to their fans, I think that's terrible. And it just shows they haven't grown anything from last year.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
After that, we get to Melbourne versus Fremantle. This was a pretty big upset as well. Fremantle were down at half-time. They did this last year in the exact same round.
And they did pretty much the exact same thing.
They came back and they won this game, and Melbourne have lost 2 in a row. Now, you've, for the majority of this year, have said that Melbourne are the favourites to win the premiership.
Yeah, I've lost that.
I've lost it?
Yeah, I've lost it. It's. I was going to say Brisbane, but I think that's gone as well. We'll get to that when we get to that game, but I think at the moment you can't go past Collingwood. Yeah, I really can't. You can't really. I could say Port, but I'm not gonna. Yeah, I think it's Collingwood at the moment. Yeah.
But one thing that happened here is Fremantle in a month have turned from one of the most disappointing clubs in the competition to one of the most. They've just done a 180.
Yeah,
they've just done a full 180. Yeah. They've just done a 180 and have just turned their form around. They've beaten the 2 grand finalists from last year and then beaten one of the premiership favourites.
Yeah, they just... I don't know
where they pulled this out from, but it's just... I mean, since the game against the Bulldogs, they've just pulled out some really good football.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell has happened down at Fremantle, but... they're in the 8. Somehow they're in the 8.
So, I mean, Fremantle are going to... I mean, if they keep on going, they're probably pushing finals at this rate, because there's a couple of teams kind of log-jammed in that 7 to 11, 12 at the moment. One player who I did mention in my post on Instagram is Luke Jackson. He played brilliantly in this game from start to finish. He was playing really well in this game before Sean Darcy went down. And against your former side, I guess a lot of people would have the thought of playing a little bit, maybe enclose themselves in too much in their head. But he was brilliant in this game, and probably one of the big things that from this game, while we mentioned Sean Darcy before, is that he is a ruckman. Yeah. Luke Jackson. He is not a key. He's not a forward. He can play midfield, but I think that he's a ruckman, and he can be that. He can be that Nick Nat Nui type.
Which I don't get you clearance.
Yeah, he can get you clearance. He's good on the ground as well. So he did get my 3 votes in this game. He was absolutely brilliant in this one. Andrew Brayshaw, I gave the 2 votes. He was very good as well for Fremantle, probably their best midfielder, and he's just definitely came into his season like Fremantle have, I guess, kind of fitting. And the 1 vote I did give to Christian Petrarca. He was brilliant for Melbourne in this game, and arguably in the second half of this game probably kept them close enough. But I do think Clayton Oliver will be out against Carlton. That won't make a difference, but he does look like he'll be back for Queen's birthday.
They're saying that he will be back, so it will be interesting. And I think it's going to be interesting because it was shown a bit that it was a bit exposed, Melbourne's midfield, when he was out.
Yeah.
Were you surprised that they didn't boo Jackson?
They did a bit early.
They did a bit early, but near the end, they did, yeah.
I think they realised that, oh shit, he's playing good footy. And I mean, let's be honest, he won him a Premier. He did.
Yeah, that's what they were saying on the telecast. That it's a bit different. That like to Horn Francis, they did win the Premiership. He did win the Premiership for him as well.
Leaving a sinking ship.
Yeah.
And then after that, we got to a Geelong versus GWS. Now, this would have been a upset of the round, but GWS have a pretty good form down there. Another one 3 in a row down at GMHBA Stadium, which is unheard of.
Yeah, no one would have called that. They probably could have, but yeah.
The Giants have came into their own. Toby Green in his 200th game was massive.
Yeah.
He eventually got the 3 votes in the end. I'll go to the other votes in a minute, but he was insane. Jake Riccardi as well for GWS has been in and out of this team. He came onto the scene quite well. I think he kicked 4 goals in his debut, but since then he's been in and out of the team. With Harry Himmelberg out, as well as Nick Haynes, they had to bring in an extra tall. He came in, he played forward, and he played really well. He played good duo with Jesse Hogan. Brent Daniels was very good in this game as well.
Yeah, he did play really well.
Yeah. Lockie Whitfield stood up as well. This was just a very good game from the Giants, and I think it definitely proves that Adam Kingsley was the right man.
Yeah, he is. It seems.
Yeah. So but one thing as well, where's Geelong? Where are they?
Yeah,
Are they a finals team? Are they a premiership team? Are they a finals team?
Yeah, it's hard to say. And their run before their next 3 games is not good. They've got, I think, the Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, in between the bye. So
I know that the second half of the season isn't going to be that easy for them. But I think they would have Brisbane as well in there and Melbourne. But I don't think they'll play Melbourne yet.
But the thing for them is they do play. I know they lost there against the Giants, but they do play down to GMHBA. I think 7 or 8 of the last 10 games down there, or something like something
it's going to be
insane.
hard to beat them down.
So it's going to be interesting. I don't know what they're doing with De Koning. And their ruck stocks.
Well, they rushed him back and played him with a face mask when I think he would have been having issues.
Yeah.
And 2, they were playing him forward.
I don't get it. They won the premiership with him down back. It's probably one of the best.
Maybe they
backmen.
just for that first week didn't want to bring him back as a facial fracture.
Yeah, but they did it a couple of weeks before he did his injury. They were playing him in the ruck and.
Yeah, I don't know what Chris Scott's doing.
He seems to be throwing around the magnets for no reason. And, I don't know why it seems like a concern, but Paddy Dangerfield looks like a big concern when he's not in the team.
Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be at this stage of his career where he has to be in the team for them to win.
And
maybe it is because, Joel Selwood was such a big leader for them last year that maybe they just don't have that big experience in the midfield when Dangerfield's not there. Maybe that's the thing. Because obviously, throughout their last 5-10 years, they've had someone in the midfield who, is a leader. Like, obviously Joel Selwood, but I think Dangerfield has been there. You've even got Cam Guthrie, if you're looking at that. They're all out. They're obviously not to an extent of injuries as some other clubs, but maybe that is getting to them now. Honestly, at this stage, I can't remember the last time 2 grand final teams have not made finals, but at this stage, Sydney are getting a couple of wins on the board, but I mean, I don't know if they're going to make finals. They're going to have a pretty tough run, but the Cats are out of the 8 at the moment, and they've got a pretty tough run. You think about teams with them, the Crows, they don't lose many games at Adelaide Oval this year.
Yeah. Essendon
have got an easy run. They've got North Melbourne 2 times, and they've got West Coast another time in the rest of the season. They're going to struggle to get there.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting how this second half of the season does go. I don't know, maybe the bye will help them. They'll get back together and they'll fight the second half of the season. And you can never count out the Cats. I think we've seen that.
Yeah, we've seen that. We even saw it at the start of last year. There was a period. It wasn't this late. It was about round 8 or 9. They were going win loss.
Yeah.
And they just crushed the rest of the season and obviously went on to win the premiership.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't count out Geelong just yet. I'm not saying that they can't make finals. And I don't even I think they could probably still make top 4 if they can get on a big run. But at this rate, they are definitely a chance of missing the finals if they continue to play like this. But next up, we get to a massive game, which we talked about a little bit earlier, which was Gold Coast versus the Western Bulldogs. This was a big game for both clubs, I believe. Western Bulldogs have been in good form, but they've beaten very lesser teams. And they came up against the Gold Coast Suns, who you would call a lesser team, but the Gold Coast seem to have hit a bit of form with their midfielders, led by a player who has finally came on, Matt Rao.
Yeah, and it showed in that game, really.
He was massive.
And I think in hindsight, losing Took Miller has showed that they can get
kind
other
of
people...
exposed them to a work ethic that they need to get to.
And it's shown that, like, with the extra midfielder that they've had to get into the midfield every now and then because they need 3, obviously.
Well, one person that they've chucked in there is Bailey Humphrey.
Yeah, and it's shown he's bloody good, isn't he? He's good. He's got, I think, 20 disposals in his last 3 games or something.
Oh, he's been very good. He's been led by Matt Rao and Noah Anderson, who's kind of taken a step back. Noah Anderson hasn't been as that dominant midfielder, but he hasn't had to be because Matt Rao's stood up, which is really good to see. Bailey Humphreys came in and he's playing a really good role for them. And it just begs the question: if they didn't have such a poor start to the season, where would they be now?
Yeah,
could they have been in the 8 at the moment?
Yeah,
because Took Miller, look, if he was, I don't know when he's coming back. I think it's probably a month or so away, so it's definitely after the bye. If he comes back and they're in a chance to make finals, I think they are a sneaky chance to make it. But there is just so many teams log jammed in that middle. Yeah. They've got Sydney, Essendon, Adelaide, Geelong. There's just so many teams logged in that area. I'm not going to add Carlton because I don't think they're a chance. No, I think they're gone now.
They're done. But like I said at the start of the season, all they needed to do was fix up their defence. And I think they've done that.
Yeah.
But I think their midfield has been let down early in the season that it might cost them in the end.
Yeah, and they had a very poor start. They started with the Swans and they had a shocking start for the first month. They even got their first win against Geelong of all teams in round 5, I believe. Was it round 4? No, round 4, I think it was. In round 4.
3 or 4, I think it was,
because then they won the next week. So, the Gold Coast, I would love to see them make finals. I think every single AFL supporter would want to see the Gold Coast make the finals, but I think they may have left their run a little bit too late. Their percentage, they never had a high percentage. No. They've never been able to flog teams. So I think they're going to probably miss again, which is very disheartening. And it could actually see the end of Stuart Dew's tenure there, which I think is a little bit harsh. But on the other hand, I mean, they've been waiting so long. It's like you can't wait forever. They need to be making finals, this team, if they want to be successful.
Yeah.
But anyway, nonetheless, they played massively in this game, led by Matt Rao. He got the 3 votes. And it's pretty harsh to who got the 2 votes of Jack Lukosius, because he got 5 goals in this game. But Matt Rao was just so good. He deserved the 3 votes in this one.
Lukosius got 4 goals from 5 kicks in the second quarter, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. So also he got his 5 goals from about a combined 25 metres out.
Yeah, they were all pretty
But I mean, he's got to be in the position to be there.
I guess so.
He's been pretty good this year, Jack Lukosius. Yeah. They finally found a spot for him. He got the 2 votes. 1 vote I did give to Jamara Ugle-Hagan. He would have been a lot higher if he kicked straight. But he was very good from this game for the Bulldogs. And in addition to his player who stood up really well, he was definitely the highlight for the Bulldogs. I don't think they had many people go with them. Bontempelli was pretty good in the first half, but other than that, the only player I saw for the Bulldogs who showed a lot of effort in this game was Jamara.
Yeah. And
the only reason why they were so close, and I know people are going to hate me for saying this, but the fucking umpires kept them in this game. The amount of goals they got from free kicks, the Bulldogs, and I think anyone who's not a Bulldogs fan would agree with me. They got fucking helped in this game if you watched it. They were the Gold Coast should have won this game very well, and they played very good football. It was, other than the first quarter where the Gold Coast were a little bit on and off, I think this game should have been a 4 or 5 goal win to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
After that, we get to West Coast versus Essendon. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. 1, because I didn't see much of it, and 2, who cares? They won by 50 points, Essendon.
Pretty much all I can say is that Essendon should have won by more. They won every quarter, but they should have won by more.
Yeah. Nonetheless, they won by 50 points. They did what they had to do. They had to win, and that's what they did. They don't have a very good record in Perth. In fact, I think it was their second highest win ever in Perth.
It was their highest ever win in Perth.
Oh, well, there you go. 50 points isn't much of a win when you think about it. Like, it's the highest. But, they did their job. They won the game. They come back, and now they have a pretty good run for the rest of the season, sitting just outside the 8. I gave 3 votes to Mason Redman. He's been a little bit up and down the last few weeks, but other than that, he's had a really good year.
I think if they're going to charge for finals, he has to get into the best of form that he had most of last year.
Yeah, and the start of this year. He's been a little bit on and off the last few weeks, but he was brilliant. Martin, I gave the 2 votes. He was very good.
He was pretty good, wasn't he? Yeah.
And the 1 vote, and one of the most underrated players in the competition that I always mention when I see him play is Kyle Langford. He's literally everyone. He's the everything man. He can go back, he can play midfield, he can play forward. He's even played second ruck at times. Yeah. He's just an everything, and I just think he's so underrated, Kyle Langford. If I was obviously being a Swan supporter, if I had one player to get, he'd be up there with one of the choices because he's such a team man. He's always giving effort. I've never seen a game where I'm like, I haven't seen Kyle Langford yet.
Yeah.
He's always getting involved. And I'm not saying he's ever going to win he's never going to win a Brownlow. He's never going to win a Coleman.
And he's probably going to win a best and fairest. But he's going to be there.
He's always going to play a role.
He's going to be in your best 22 every week.
Yeah. After that, we get to Richmond versus Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
This was a grind for Port, and I think it was a game they had to win, and I did think this game was going to be quite a close one. But Port held strong, and in the last quarter, Ken Hinckley really showed some good coaching.
Yeah.
He had Bergman forward for the third quarter.
Yeah, and I think that's screwed.
He's screwing around the short, but he saw his mistake, and he's like, let's put our players in the positions we need them, and they stood strong in the last quarter. And their midfield stood up as well.
Yeah. It showed, the first 10 minutes when Richmond looked pretty good, you didn't see Zach Butters in the first 10 minutes of the first quarter. And then after that, you just saw him get back into the game. He got get some few touches, and he just... he
was big in the last quarter.
Yeah, he was big in the game. Lockie Jones was unlucky, I thought, because he started on Dustin Martin.
Yeah, he played really well.
He kicked, I think, 1 goal for Dusty, but he changed the matchup at half time to get and chucked Burton back onto him. And in the third quarter, if Dustin Martin kicked straight, Richmond could have actually done something.
Yeah,
but. It was just a whole bunch of... The whole game was just about both teams not taking their chances.
I think one point as well is Richmond were always going to stand up in this game.
Yeah,
they were always going to... It was always going to be a grind if Port were going to win, but they did hold on. They held strong. But one player who's been a little bit... who's been questioned for maybe his ball use was one of the few players who could kick straight in this game was Tim Taranto. He kicked 4 goals. I think he kicked 1 point in the end, but he did kick straight when they needed him. There was a few times in the second and third quarter where he kicked straight when no one else could.
Yeah.
He was massive in this one. This was probably his best game, probably of his career to date. I think 4 goals and 30 plus touches as a midfielder is, it has to be one of your best.
Yeah, he just showed you pretty much why the Richmond got him, really, I thought. Yeah.
He's a goal scoring midfielder, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
So he obviously got the 3 votes. You did give the votes in this one. You gave 3 votes to Tim Taranto. That's pretty much obvious.
That was obvious.
If you get 4 goals, 30 plus touches, you're going to get 3 votes. Yeah. This is how Gary Ablett got votes when
this is how Gary Ablett
Gold Coast finished bottom. He kicked goals and he got disposals.
Yeah.
2 votes you gave to Toby Nankervis.
I gave him 2 votes because he did pretty much most of the effort in the midfield. Because he pretty much was tapping it to Taranto. He did all he could, I thought, to get them over the line. Because Lycett played, I thought, okay. Not as good as he did last week against Melbourne. But I thought, Nankervis played pretty well. And
the 1 vote you did give to Zach Butters. I think that's just to try and keep him up. In the
no. If Butters doesn't play this week, Port don't win. Like in most of Port's games, I think this season that
Zach Butters needs to play the full. If they want to win, even let's say they want to get to the Premiership, he has to be playing the rest of the year with the
pretty much.
Playing good footy.
I think the last couple of years he's been injured every now and then. I think it's hurt Port.
Yeah,
a lot more than what maybe other people in. Other media outlets would say. I think he was a huge out last year and the year before that when he had a few injuries. So he may have got 2 votes, but I thought Nankervis was more influential.
Oh, yeah. All right. Next up, we get to Collingwood versus North Melbourne. This is a bit of a nothing burger as well. Collingwood won this one. You watched.
I watched most of it.
I was streaming the other game, so I didn't really get much of a look at this. So you gave the votes. Yeah. You gave Jordan De Goey 3.
Yeah, he was back to his best. He was back to his form that he's always promised.
I just don't know why Collingwood every now and then just chuck him and play him forward.
I know. He's
a midfielder.
Yeah, I think it showed this year that he's a midfielder. Yeah. And
he's always had the comparisons to Dustin Martin, but I don't know why they just eventually... I get that they probably have enough people to chuck through the midfield, but I still think that they're their best. Collingwood are at their best when Jordan De Goey's getting the touches and getting goals.
He is.
Not just kicking goals. Not just... When he's having 29 touches, kicking 1 or 2 goals, he's having more influence than him playing forward and getting, 10, 15 touches and getting
I think
goals.
He seems like when he has like a 15 disposal game, he kicks 1 goal 5. Yeah. He doesn't. When he has 30 disposals, he'll kick 2 goals straight.
Yeah.
It just seems to help him kick at goal for some reason as well. He always has that.
After that, you gave 2 votes to Nick Dacos and 1 vote to Tom Mitchell.
Yeah, I thought both of them were pretty good, and I think Nick Dacos, he's always getting the cheap disposals, but at the last, I'd say, month or so, he's getting more midfield time, and I think it showed how good he really is, really.
Yeah.
And Tom Mitchell, he's been under the radar. I think you brought it up a couple of weeks ago that Tom Mitchell, he's starting to get into his work that he always showed, and he's getting...
he's showing more influence.
Yeah, he's got more influence, and... Yeah.
Having 45 touches, even 50 at one stage in his career. I remember that game. We were at that game and he was in Victoria. Would have been 5 or 6 years ago.
It was Collingwood v Hawthorn.
Yeah, it was Collingwood v Hawthorn. Obviously, he was at the Hawks at the time. But he had like 50 touches, 54 touches. I think it was a record.
Yeah, the record one, yeah.
Yeah, but he had no influence on the game.
No.
Collingwood went on and won it.
Yeah.
Because he had no influence. He was all he was doing was getting gimme handballs and getting little short kicks that weren't making a difference. Yeah. But now he's having, he's not having as many touches as he usually does, but he actually is. He's playing the role that he's always been destined to play, which is a clearance player, always getting that first touch and getting the ball out to his runners. Anyway, he played very well in this one.
Yeah.
But finally, we get to what could have been game of the round, honestly, if it wasn't for so many. It was probably the game of the round going into it, which was the Crows versus Brisbane.
Yeah.
Brisbane had a pretty good record Adelaide over, winning their previous 4 before this one. The Crows playing poor last week against the Western Bulldogs. But I think it does show that if they are at Adelaide Oval, they're going to be a very hard team to beat. And also, this team didn't play... I think Jared Healy said it in the call. This isn't the team that played in Ballarat last week.
No,
this is a team that played very good football, who's challenging for finals. I don't know if they'll do much damage if they make it, because I think what they will be able to do this year is they'll be able to beat the teams below them and beat them pretty comfortably.
Yeah, they'll be able to get percentage.
Yeah.
And
that's what does help towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
But they are going to struggle, I think, against the top teams because of their forward line. Just because of their defence. And if their midfield doesn't absolutely stand up, like they did against Brisbane, they were very lucky in this game that the Brisbane Lions kicked terribly.
Yeah, because it's the first time in about probably 18 months that they haven't kicked straight, Brisbane. They've always been known for the most accurate team in the AFL. And they just, they kicked 10 goal 18.
Yeah, I think it was like 6 goal 17.
And they kicked in the third quarter 1 goal 9 or 1 goal 10. They had so much dominance they just couldn't put it on the scoreboard.
Yeah. But to the credit to the Crows, they did hold themselves account. They did, they took their chances when they got it forward, and they, I think Brisbane dominated a lot more of this game than the Crows did, but they didn't take their chances. And we've seen this year, if you don't take your chances, you lose the game.
Yeah.
And I kept on mentioning it in the commentary that, this is exactly how Carlton were doing it on the weekend. They had stages against the Swans when they were playing really good football, not really good football, but they were playing better, and they just wouldn't put it on the scoreboard.
But I just want to say one thing. Yes, they won the game, and yes, Taylor Walker, you're looking at the stats, he didn't have a huge influence. But him being in the side takes the number 1 defender. And it's why they won the game. I don't care what they say. They still rely too much on Walker. And I don't care. Yes, he.
Well, we saw against the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
The thing is, him standing in the team is taking. He may not have much influence on the game, but he's taking away your best.
You're taking it, they were saying it in the call. I think halfway during the third quarter, he had 4 disposals or something. He had 2 goals. That doesn't matter. He had the best defender on him. It has a huge influence on the game.
It means that if he's playing, that means they're not going to Darcy Fogarty, who had a pretty good game, or Phil Thorpe, who had a pretty good game as well.
You're going to, I think, because, was it Andrews that was on him? That was on Walker? Yeah. Gardner, coming back into his first game of the season, was going to play on the Phil Thorpe or a Fogarty. Jack Payne being out didn't help either. But it just showed them that, in my opinion, it didn't really change my opinion on the Crows because of that game. I want to see them when they play... Who have they got this week? They got an easy game.
They've got a pretty easy run.
They've got a pretty easy run now. But it showed me not much changing for the Crows if it comes into finals.
The thing is he going to be playing in their next premiership? Well, in their next premiership push. Is he going to be playing there? I don't know. If maybe they'll get... maybe they'll like do what Sydney did last year and just make a massive push towards a grand final in next year or the year after. But does he have 4 years in him?
Yeah.
I don't think he does.
No.
So we'll see how it happens. Let's just get into the votes because we've been going for a bit now. But the votes nonetheless, 3 votes I gave to Jordan Dawson. He's been massive this year. I think actually he could be leading the vote medal, the Ryder medal at the moment. Could be leading the Brownlow, which is less important as well. 2 votes I gave to Rory Laird. He was massive in this game.
I was surprised by that. He had pretty much the same amount of disposals, but he had 16 tackles in that game.
Dawson had more influence on the game.
Right.
He had more influence on the game, Dawson. If you watch the game, you would know.
Yeah.
Did you watch the game?
I had it on a split screen. I wasn't going to watch much of it. I was going to keep an eye on the North Melbourne game.
And the 1 vote I gave to Isaac Rankin. Now, he only kicked 2 goals in this one, but he had 3 goal assists. He had about 20 plus touches, and this is the game that, he's had a pretty quiet 2 months. He had a really blistering start to his career at the Crows. Then we had a pretty quiet month and a bit. But this game was pretty big. And we saw him kick a massive goal of the year contender, and he set up Josh Rochelli's goal as well.
Yeah.
So I gave him the 1 vote. I know he didn't get, 5 goals or whatever as a small forward, which, 2 goals as a forward, you would think, that's probably not a game for a vote. But the way he played this game, he looked dangerous every single time it went near him. He put a lot of pressure on Brisbane, and I think that Starsky doesn't get beaten very often, but I think he got beaten in this game.
Yeah, it was a very good game to get back into form for Rankin. Yeah.
And if he can hit form with Josh Rochelli and they can win some games away from home, because look, like I've said, they're going to win games at Adelaide Oval no matter what, because the crowd hold them up. They win games there because they know the ground obviously because it's Adelaide Oval, and most teams find it difficult to go down to Adelaide and win. So I think that it's going to be very interesting if they can push finals. But I think if Isaac Rankin can hit that form, I think that I don't know if I can call him the recruit of the year, but I think it's probably Tim Taranto at this stage.
Yeah,
I think it's probably up there.
I think Tim Taranto. Yes, he doesn't have maybe the efficiency that some of the other players do, but he's shown the influence that he has in the game. Yeah. He does most of it. He does the pressure acts. He gets the disposals. He gets the clearances. He's kicking goals. So he's probably, I think, Tim Taranto is more the recruit.
Maybe him, maybe even Dunkley, because he's definitely brought himself. Yeah. I mean, he didn't play that well against the Crows, but he's had a pretty good, year with them. I said a little bit earlier, it's before the injury, Billy Frampton, I think, has been up there as a very good recruit. He's played multiple roles and he's played really well. There's been players that I think have been a little bit better than Isaac Rankin because they've been a little bit more consistent. But I think he's definitely been up there as one of the best forwards been up there as better recruits this year. But after that, we'll get to the tips. Sorry this is taking so long. I just wanted to get through those votes and talk about those games because we didn't get to talk much last week. But obviously, there will be a bye. 4 teams have a bye this week. It's Brisbane, Fremantle, St Kilda, and Sydney. So we've only got 7 games to look at this week. First game of the round is Carlton versus Melbourne. Melbourne may have lost the last 2 weeks, but I don't see them losing 3. Carlton, no. They should win this one pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I think it should be a pretty easy win for Melbourne. I've put in my certainty on it this week, and I just think their defence is better to hold up against Carlton's struggling forward line.
If Sydney's defence can hold up against a Carlton forward line, then surely Melbourne's can.
If Carlton can kick straight, they could turn it around.
Well, to be fair, they've had more scoring shots in the past 2 weeks against their opposition, against Collingwood, who are obviously one of the premiership favourites, and Sydney. They've both had more scoring shots. So if they can get it on the board, maybe stick clear of fucking Harry Mackay for a bit. Yeah. Maybe they can kick some goals straight.
Yeah.
But at this rate, I think Melbourne win this one comfortably.
Melbourne and certainty on it.
Yeah. After that, we get to Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn. Hawthorn, look, they've won their last 2 games, but without James Sicily, I don't give them a lick of hope. No. Port Adelaide will win this one.
Yeah, I'm actually being a bit more confident in Port Adelaide at the moment, and Port should win. If Sicily was playing, it would be, well, not a different story, but at least something a bit different.
I would give Hawthorn a sneaky chance because they're in some good form, and I think Port's forward line not being at their best. Because I think if Charlie Dixon or Todd Marshall were they in this week? Could they be in this week?
Todd Marshall, because he's missed the last 2, they're expecting him to play. I think Port Adelaide should rest Dixon again, I think, and leave him for next week.
Yeah.
Because I think the next 2 weeks we have the Bulldogs and Geelong before Port's bye. So I think you want him for them 2 games, then this week against Hawthorn.
Yeah. After that we get to West Coast versus Collingwood. Collingwood will win this one by like 50, 60
Well, they did win last year.
Yeah, you told me this as well. I don't care if West Coast Collingwood changed their season.
They changed the season after this game last season.
Yeah, so maybe they'll lose and they'll just run to the premiership from here.
Yeah,
Collingwood win this one and
they'll win this one by 10. They should win this by 15 goals.
Yeah, this game should be over by quarter time. This may be at Optus Stadium, but that doesn't make a difference for West Coast.
I think that makes it even worse.
That saves them maybe a goal. It saves them maybe a goal from being a 20-goal loss, maybe. But Collingwood win this one uncomfortably. Let's be honest. After that, we get to probably the game of the round, because this round probably doesn't have that many games to decipher from, really. It's the Bulldogs versus Geelong. Now, for me, there's no other certainty picks I can make. From obviously, if you guys don't know the rules exactly, we have to pick a team for a certainty pick who lost the previous week. So obviously, both these teams lost last week. So it's not exactly easy for me to pick from. Because I think this is a 50-50 game.
Yeah.
Because the Bulldogs, they've won. They're in pretty good form looking at it. They've won 5 of their past 7, I think.
Yeah.
But they've beaten so many lower teams. They're not beating the top teams. But Geelong, on the other hand, have lost their past 3.
And they just can't.
They can't
defend at the moment.
They can't defend, and I will be putting my certainty pick on Geelong. Now, the reason why I'm going to do that is because I think Chris Scott can't let 4 go wrong, 4 losses in a row. I can't see Geelong doing that. I can see the Bulldogs losing 2 in a row.
Yeah.
But I can't see Geelong losing 4 in a row, and I think that Geelong get the ball in there enough to Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins that they'll just get on the board enough and win this game.
Yeah. I think also Stewart got into a bit of form last week. I think if he gets into form, he can at least guide them around the defence. They should be able to stop Norton, Lobb, and Jamara at the moment. So I think Geelong win.
After that, we get to another big game on Saturday night. Up in Darwin once again, Gold Coast versus the Crows. I think the Crows will win this one. But, if we go with your form of saying, the weather down in Adelaide has been pretty cold and wet the past few weeks. Mm. And the Crows are going up to Darwin, which is going to be warm weather. And the Crows don't have the best record up in Darwin.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to pick the Crows in this one. But I wouldn't be too surprised if the Gold Coast actually win. And on this points bet here, it actually gives Gold Coast the favourites.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I know I tipped Gold Coast last week. But Gold Coast are actually staying up in Darwin for the week between their games up there. But I just think the Crows have a better forward line to get a winning score. Yes, it'll be dewy and all that weather, but I think the Crows forward line should be able to kick winning score against the Suns. I just don't trust the Suns, obviously.
Honestly, that could be game of the round, actually.
Yeah.
It'll
be interesting. I think that actual game is very... I think it has high stakes for either team. If the Suns want to be proven as a finals team, they have to be able to win this game and back up what they did last week.
Yeah, well, currently the Crows are sitting 7th and the Gold Coast are sitting 12th. So, but they're only separated by a win and obviously a lot of percentage. So obviously, if the Gold Coast go and win this game, they're equal with the Crows.
Mm.
But if the Crows go and win this game, honestly, they're pushing top 4 at this rate because the Bulldogs and St Kilda are a bit on and off.
Yeah.
So look, we're picking both the Crows, but we wouldn't also be too surprised if the Gold Coast pull this one.
Mm.
Sunday is first game is Giants versus Richmond. Again, another pretty 50-50 game, to be honest. I'm going to be picking the Giants, and I think they've actually hit some form. And they will be getting... I think I'll get back Himmelberg and Haynes this week. Richmond, I've lost all faith in them now. I think that, people were saying that McWalter isn't really losing, going for an interim coach because he's been with Dimmer Hardwick for so long that it's just like having him there as well, having him there to an extent.
Yeah.
But I still think when you lose your head coach mid-season, that basically shoots off the rest of Europe. I think that just basically just says we're giving up. We're not giving up, but we're not... We don't see ourselves making finals this year. So I think the Giants, even though, look, they won't make finals this year, I don't think the Giants. I think that they can actually push a few teams later in the season. And being at Giants Stadium, I give them a chance, and I think they will win this game.
Do you think the Giants are the team that could influence the finals in a way?
Yeah, I think we always get a team in the bottom 8 who can, pull a couple of games late in the season. We saw, I guess, Port a little bit last year. We're pulling a couple of late games, and we're a hard team to beat. Even Essendon, to an extent, they pulled a couple of late games. Yeah. There were a couple of teams late last season who were pulling games when, they didn't really have anything on the line. So I think the Giants are a big team who could decide some games in the finals, because obviously they have had some pretty big wins this season. So I give them a big chance. I'm picking them in this one.
Yeah, I've went Richmond. I think, yes, it was their first game under McWalter. I think this showed a bit, Richmond. I think Richmond can win this game, and yeah, it'll be interesting. I think if you keep Shea Bolton in the midfield, they can win it. If he doesn't do that, I think Richmond lose. But I think he would keep Shea Bolton in the midfield, and Richmond will win.
Finally, we get to Essendon versus North Melbourne. Look, North Melbourne have played a little bit better the last few weeks with Brett Ratton, and trying to play to show some pride for their club. But Essendon, I think they're going to be pushing finals this year.
Yeah.
They've got such a good run with the fixture. As long as they can keep the majority of their players on the park, their most important players, they're going to get back most likely Peter Wright sometime throughout the last 2 months of the season. Parrish, they're going to get these players back. Dylan Shield as well, even Will Setterfield to an extent. Ben Hobbs is playing well in the midfield. Zach Merritt's hit another level. They're hitting these strides. I think Essendon are going to push for finals, and I think they're going to start, giving a real shot towards this top 8 with a win against North Melbourne.
Yeah. I think you give too much credit to North Melbourne in the last 2 weeks. Yes, they were close against Sydney, and I'll give them the credit. The credit for Collingwood was it was Larkey who kicked 5 goals. Larkey won't kick 5 again. Won't kick 5 every week. Yes, he plays right at Marvel, but I think Essendon will get percentage Essendon this week. I think.
Well, they do kind of need it. But
yeah.
If they're going to be pushing a little bit higher up the 8, especially when it gets close and late in the year. But after that, we'll get to our final part of the podcast, which is AFL Fantasy. Now, I had a fucked week with Fantasy, but also scored pretty decently.
Yeah.
I got 2,144, which doesn't sound like a lot, but a lot of people did get kind of fucked with their teams this week with scoring. I had Darcy, who got 34 and injured. Atkins, who got 30-odd and got subbed out. And then Braden Fiorini, who took a seat on the bench for the majority of the game, for all I know. He did fuck all. I watched this game and I didn't see him at all most of the time. He was playing on the wing. I think it was just because the other wing was mostly the side that they played on. When you're a wingman, it's basically which side the wing's played on, really. Because if it's only on one side of the ground, it could just not be seen by a wingman throughout a match.
Yeah, I think that ground up in Darwin doesn't really suit wingman, in my opinion. To
an extent. Maybe you're right, but yeah. This is where I'm going to get to my team, and people will probably be a little bit shocked. I'm actually before that, I'm still ranked 1,191. So, I think I dropped by about 200 rank, which I will take considering how poor a lot of players did. The one thing that saved me was Taranto as captain, was 145, which is 290. A lot of other players stood up as well. We saw McRae, he got 123. He played really well, and he's actually came on the last few weeks. Surprisingly, I didn't see this coming, but he also got he got a DPP. He's also a forward now.
Oh, of course he did.
So I don't know how that happened. I've not seen him play forward this year, but nonetheless. And Bontempelli played quite well as well. But to my trades, I've got rid of Harry Sharp because he's got the bye this week, and just a little bit of cash for Mullen, who played quite well in his debut for Geelong. I got rid of Braden Fiorini, and the reason why I have all this money was because of the next trade, which I'm going to talk about, and why I'm adamant this is a good decision. I got rid of Braden Fiorini for Zach Merritt. I was going to get Rory Laird, but he's been suspended for a week. He may survive. I think it will, because we've seen a lot of dangerous tackles just get a week really now. So yeah. I don't think they're taking any sort of leniency. If you throw someone to the ground and their head hits the ground, you're going to get a week. Rory Laird's going to get a week, unfortunately for him. So yeah, I picked Zach Merritt, and plus because I had to pick a player who my round 15 buy is just I had a look. I've got 17 players out, so I have to start trading players in who are not in that bracket, because I was going to get Sam Walsh, but he's in that bye as well. So I was like, I can't get a Carlton player. But anyway, this is my other trade. I had to get rid of Sean Darcy because they're saying he's going to miss the week after the bye as well. A lot of people would have gone with Nan Curvis. I didn't have enough money for Tim English. Did I? Actually, maybe I did. No, he's $1 million. I didn't have enough for him. I got Kieran Briggs. Now, the reason why I got Kieran Briggs is because Flynn is not Kieran Briggs. Kieran Briggs, I've watched the last few games from the Giants. This guy gets around the ground. He gets the ball. He's a bustling guy. He's Shane Mumford reincarnated. All right? Now, the people are going to be like, no, he's not. Yes, he is. At least when I'm making a reasoning for it. He's a big guy. He helps in the ruck. They've played really well in their past 3 games. He's played in 2 of them. Sorry. All right. They've played well in the past 2 games. They could have beaten St Kilda if they just were a little bit more if they just held on a little bit longer and had a little bit more quality up forward. He played really well against them. Against Geelong, he was massive in this game. He kicked the goal. He got forward. He also won a lot of ruck contests. Got quite a few clearances. He tackled. He's 540 at the moment as a ruck. He's averaging 97. I'm holding him because he will be out in round 15 at the moment. He's going to be out in round 15 with the bye. That's why I'm getting Kieran Briggs now, because his price is going to go right up. I'll be fine the next few weeks because my buys are nothing. I've got heaps of players in the next few buys, so my scores will be fine. I'm getting Kieran Briggs in the hope that he keeps his form and maybe I can keep him, but also on the back burner that he's going to go up in a lot of price. I don't see him scoring 30 as a ruckman. As a sole ruckman, this guy gets around the ground. He looks like he's come on a lot. I can see him getting up to 650, 700 by round 15 if he gets a regular on. If he can, I can trade him back out if I have to, if he's playing poorly, and get back Sean Darcy when he's back from injury. Maybe even get Nan Curvis because he's playing quite well, and maybe even Jared Witts or Riley O'Brien, maybe. But that's why I've got Kieran Briggs. Yeah. I know people will still have a bit of a questioning, why the fuck are you doing that? But that's why I've done it.
Yeah. Do you have any buy players on your field for this week?
I have one, Rowan Marshall, but I've also got Faye, who played for the Giants in this week, but obviously played as a sub and got 6 points. So I'm not exactly banking on him playing. The rest of the team is pretty well okay. Wardlaw will be in my team as a midfielder, and Angwin will be in my forward line. But that's pretty much it. I've got pretty much a full team. So I've got 21.
Alright, my team. Oh, yeah. I was okay with this week. I wasn't thrilled with it. I think there was a lot of players that could have done a lot better. Last week I got Sinclair in. He did poor for me, in my opinion.
He only got 82.
Yeah, he got 82. I was pretty annoyed by that.
I don't think they played in midfield. They chucked him back in
he chucked him back. I don't know why they tried that. And obviously I had Fiorini as well. That shot me in the foot. I was annoyed by Ashcroft. He looked really good the past 3 or 4 weeks. And then he tries to get to the Crows and he gets to 46.
I think he's tired.
He's tired. I think he needs to get to the bye.
He's got the bye now, so maybe that will get him back in the rest for a couple of weeks into the rest of the season.
And, who I really was annoyed at, who didn't actually play this week, was Chesser. I was annoyed because he plays for West Coast. Surely, how the hell does he get dropped? I'm sorry, but seriously, how does he get dropped?
Well, I looked into the Waffle and he didn't score very much.
I don't care.
So he's not even playing that well in the Waffle.
I don't care. He should be playing in the team. If the amount of injuries that they have.
Yeah, come on,
I'm
Simo.
sorry.
Come on, Simo. You're going to lose your job.
Give us some money generation here. We're not getting a lot here.
Come on, Simo. Surely one of your players got an AFL Fantasy. Just bring
him in. I know Alex Witherden does. I know he does. They talk about it all the time. So besides from that, Will Phillips scored well on my bench, just 90, so I was alright happy with that one, but obviously he was on my bench in my forward line, which...
You could have used him for Fiorini.
It would have been nice if I could somehow get him in my midfield. But this week I got rid of Matthew Johnson for Fremantle. He's just bottomed out in my opinion, and I got Mullen to get some money. I got rid of Fiorini, and I got Ben Hobbs.
Which you should have done last week.
Which I should have done last week, but I don't think it's going to hurt me at the moment. And I got rid of Ashcroft, and I got Matthew Rao. I got him because, obviously, I also looked, and I've got like 15 players in round 15 who have the bye. And I know Matty Rao has the bye next week. And I looked at my buys next week, because there's only 2 teams who have the buy, and I've only got 3 players in my entire 30 that have the buy in that week. So
yeah,
I'll have a full squad, and it won't hurt me next week. So I got Matty Rowell in. He's playing well. He's pretty good.
He's only averaging 98 for the season, but
yeah, but the last month he's actually 3 weeks he's scored over 100 in both games. I think he's averaging 109. I think in that last month.
And how many players you got in the buy?
I've got 1 on my field at the moment. Well, Royal Marshall, but yeah. So I've got a full squad.
Because obviously, if you don't know as well, if you in the buy rounds, you get only the top 18 scores. So you can have 22 in your team. You could even have 19 in your team, but only the 18 top scores will get counted.
Yeah. So obviously, I've had to put Mullen in my team, and what was his name, Faye. At the moment.
That's if he plays.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that Faye, like, obviously, if they do score, you get the top 18 scores from your team. So yeah, hopefully, and so hopefully, I can scrape through. And I think I went up in rank this week. I think I went up at 200 rank for now. I'm on 3,136. So I'm alright with that. I'm just great. I just want to get through the buys really, just to see how good I go.
Well, at this point now, you need to set up your buys to get you through the
rest
of the season.
Now I just really have to set up my round 15 buy, because like we both have, you have a lot of players that have the buy that week, but they all the players you want to keep. They're playing all right. They're averaging high.
Yeah, I was looking at my team and I was thinking, who am I going to get rid of here? Because like before the week, I was like, I don't know who I'm going to get rid of, because Fiorini hasn't gone up enough. Darcy's doing good, so I don't really want to get rid of Ruckman. Atkins is doing okay, so I can sit in there, and so is Ashcroft. So who am I going to get rid of?
Yeah.
And then this week, all of them did nothing. All got injured. So I was like, oh, all right, I got some options.
So
that's why I got rid of like Darcy for Kieran Briggs, because I needed money. Because I had to get rid of Fiorini. I was like, he only went up 1,000 this week.
He was lucky to drop that.
So no matter what he gets basically next week, unless he scores 120 or a good 80 score, he's not going to go up much.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I have to get rid of him. I can keep Atkins for another week because, to be honest, I think one of them will get dropped. So I think if Atkins gets dropped, I'll swap it around. But yeah, that's what basically I'm doing now. But that's really all we've got tonight, guys. Obviously, this is coming out on a Tuesday. Probably come out in the next couple of hours or so. So probably like mid-afternoon. Maybe Wednesday morning if it's not out. So thanks for watching today, guys. Stream will be out this week. Probably Saturday night. I'm not thinking about... Maybe Friday night as well, the Melbourne-Carlton game. Make sure to go check out Jackpot Junkies over on Instagram. Will be linked in the description. Sorry we didn't do a game of the week this week. But
we did win. We did win on the weekend. We won the Port one, so jump on. We're getting back into form.
Got some money this week. As always, if you're going to go over there, gamble responsibly. Hope your team wins this week as well. But that's all from us, so we'll catch you all next time.
See you later, guys.